Hello finance lovers, welcome to TEKNXS, a place where future finance experts come to get inspired. In today's video, we will talk about great global reset after pandemic. Introduction. The World Economic Forum has recently launched the Great Reset. It will be the theme of its 2021 annual meeting in Davos. It emphasizes, among other things, the importance of small global cooperation that is well positioned to address the challenges in the next 50 years by all stakeholders within a global society. The COVID-19 crisis and the political, economic, and social disruption it has caused is fundamentally changing the traditional context for decision-making, the variations, shortages, and contradictions of multiple systems. It is from health and financial to energy and education. These are more exposed than ever among a global context of concern for lives, livelihoods, and the planet. Leaders find themselves at a historic crossroads, managing short-term pressures against medium and long-term uncertainties. The Great Reset looks at the economic incentives which have driven American society in the past. Florida compares the 2008 to 2012 global recession to two similar periods in recent history, the 1870s and the 1930s. The book is divided into three parts: how past resets have shaped development, how different cities are positioned, and what trends will emerge from the reset. It is well defined with all respective to the Great Reset. How New Ways of Living and Working Drive Post-Crash Prosperity is a book published in April 2010 by Richard Florida, a professor at the University of Toronto's Rotman School of Management. The book puts into context Florida's urban development theories with the recent recession to describe the future of the world. This section examines the potential impact that the recession and the reset will have on different types of cities. The higher a city's exposure to the new creative economy, the better it will do in the Great Reset. Cities like London and New York City, despite their exposure to the financial industry, have the diversity and global reach to prosper. Big cities with a diverse demographic and creative base have proven that they are the most capable of attracting young people and new talented graduates. Cities like Chicago, New York, and San Francisco are where the most graduates flock each year. Florida argues that cities benefit from economies of scale and produce the most efficient systems for the economy, environment, and transportation. He sees this scale as an advantage as cities become smarter and more versatile. Components of the Great Reset. The Great Reset agenda would have three main components. The first would steer the market toward reasonable outcomes. To this end, governments should improve coordination, for example in tax, regulatory, and fiscal policy, upgrade trade arrangements, and create the conditions for a stakeholder economy. At a time of diminishing tax bases and soaring public debt, governments have a powerful incentive to pursue such action. Moreover, governments should implement long overdue reforms that promote more equitable outcomes. Depending on the country, these may include changes to the withdrawal of fossil fuel subsidies, wealth taxes, and new rules governing intellectual property, competition, and trade. The second component of a Great Reset agenda would ensure that investments advance shared goals, such as equality and sustainability. Here, the large-scale spending programs that many governments are implementing represent a major opportunity for progress. The European Commission, for one, has unveiled plans for 750 billion euros, equal to $826 billion recovery fund. The US, China, and Japan have also ambitious economic stimulus plans. The third and final priority of a Great Reset agenda is to harness the innovations of the Fourth Industrial Revolution to support the public good, especially by addressing health and social challenges. During the COVID-19 crisis, companies, universities, and others have joined forces to develop diagnostics, therapeutics, and possible vaccines, establish testing centers, create mechanisms for tracing infections, and deliver telemedicine. Imagine what could be possible if similar concerted efforts were made in every sector. Step to apply the Great Reset. From the perspective of the IMF, we have seen a massive injection of fiscal stimulus to help countries deal with this crisis and to shift gears for growth to return. It is of paramount importance that this growth should lead to a greener, smarter, fairer world in the future. It is possible to do this, provided that we concentrate on the key elements of a recovery and act now. We don't need to wait. At the IMF, we see some tremendous opportunities. First, let's talk about green growth. Governments can put in place public investments and incentives for private investments that support low carbon and climate resilient growth. Many of these investments can lead to job-rich recovery. Think of planting mangroves, land restoration, reforestation, or insulating buildings. Think of the key sectors for reducing carbon intensity where both the public and private sector can invest. It is usually to eliminate harmful subsidies and introduce a carbon price that would work as an incentive for future investments. Second, let us talk about smarter growth. We know the digital economy is the big winner of this crisis, but we must not allow the digital divide to widen so that some countries and communities fall further behind. This would bring more pain than gain in the future. So, it is critical that institutions like the IMF support investments that will shrink the digital divide, working in partnership with the World Bank and others. We also need to think carefully about how to make sure the jumping growth and profitability in the digital sector leads to benefits that are shared across all societies. And let's talk about the third point, fairer growth. We know that if left to its own devices, this pandemic is going to deepen inequality. That has happened in prior pandemics. This all discussion concludes with an example from the past. William Beveridge, in the midst of the Second World War, put forward his famous report in 1942, in which he projected how the UK should address what he called the 5 giant evils. That famous Beveridge report led to a better country after the war, including the creation of the National Health Service that is saving so many lives today in the UK. Impacts of the global reset. Humanity has no shortage of creativity, imagination, and problem-solving ability. What we need more of is responsible leadership that inspires collaboration, sympathy, and vision on local and global levels for humanity to land at new and safe heights. We have no alternative to thinking and acting as a global community, and therefore must strive to leave no one behind. It is time to reach out and include non-traditional voices in a global society of stakeholders to ensure that future solutions are relevant, effective, and representative to all, and not just a few. Government is therefore given a free pass on spending because the only thing that we have to worry about with the national debt is inflation. Curb inflation and the debt can keep growing with no consequences. This is because the US government can never run out of money. It just keeps printing money because dollars are always in demand, with the dollar being the reserve currency and commodities are traded in dollars. The future concerns about the Great Reset as ideals of a global society and a Great Reset will be tested over the coming months. The post-pandemic era will see economic disruption with many countries unable to deploy fiscal stimulus. Global institutions must lead on cushioning the blow for the most vulnerable. Experts' views. We need to design policies to align with investment in people and the environment, said the General Secretary of the International Trade Union Confederation, Sharon Burrow. But above all, the longer-term perspective is about rebalancing economies. We have a golden opportunity to seize something good from this crisis. Its unprecedented shockwaves may well make people more receptive to big visions of change, said Prince Charles at the meeting, adding later, "It is an opportunity we have never had before and may never have again." The threat of climate change has been more gradual than COVID-19, but its devastating reality for many people and their livelihoods around the world and its even greater potential to disrupt surpasses even that of COVID-19, Prince Charles said. Gold is the trust anchor for the financial system. If the whole system collapses, the gold stock provides a collateral to start over. Gold gives confidence in the power of the central bank's balance sheet. Conclusion: to achieve a better outcome, the world must act jointly and swiftly to restore all aspects of our societies and economies, from education to social contracts and working conditions. Every country must participate, and every industry, from oil and gas to tech, must be transformed. In short, we need a great reset of capitalism. How do you think about the Great Reset? Explain your thoughts in comments. For more updates, make sure to subscribe and turn bell notifications on.